Madonna reached her peak in 1984 with Like a Virgin, and in 2025 she remains active, completed a world tour celebrating 40 years of her career, and works on new musical and artistic projects. Janet Jackson reached her peak in 1989 with Rhythm Nation, and in 2025 she is on a commemorative tour, performing selected shows and working on special career-related projects. Cyndi Lauper reached her peak in 1984 with Girls Just Wanna Have Fun, and in 2025 she completed her farewell tour and participates in events and tributes to her career. Kylie Minogue reached her peak in 1988 with I Should Be So Lucky, and in 2025 she continues releasing successful songs, performing internationally, and holds a Las Vegas residency. Debbie Gibson reached her peak in 1987 with Only in My Dreams. And in 2025, she tours nostalgic shows, released independent singles, and appears on music TV programs. Tiffany reached her peak in 1987 with I Think We're Alone Now, and in 2025, she continues performing in 80s nostalgia tours and works on independent alternative rock projects. Belinda Cardi's reached her peak in 1987 with Heaven is a Place on Earth, and in 2025, she is on an international tour promoting her solo work. Susanna Hoffus reached her peak in 1986 with Walk Like an Egyptian with the Bangles. And in 2025, she continues her solo career, released a book in 2023, and performs at special events. Pat Benatar reached her peak in 1980 with Hit Me With Your Best Shot. And in 2025, she tours the US with her husband Neil Giraldo and performs at rock festivals. Paula Abdul reached her peak in 1989 with Straight Up, and in 2025, she makes special appearances, works as a guest choreographer, and joins television projects. Gloria Estefan reached her peak in 1987 with Rhythm Is Gonna Get You, and in 2025, she performs selected shows, works in musicals, and continues as a businesswoman. Sheena Easton reached her peak in 1981 with Morning Train 9 to 5. And in 2025, she performs selectively and participates in music catalog. Kim Wilde reached her peak in 1981 with Kids in America. And in 2025, she is on a European nostalgia tour. Bonnie Tyler reached her peak in 1983 with Total Eclipse of the Heart. And in 2025, she continues performing at festivals across Europe. Annie Lennox reached her peak in 1983 with Sweet Dreams Are Made of This as part of Europe. And in 2025, she participates in special events and humanitarian projects. Sad Folose. Adu reached her peak in 1984 with Smooth Operator. And in 2025, she remains private, but is rumored to be working on new projects with her band. Kate Bush reached her peak in 1985 with Running Up That Hill. And in 2025, she keeps a low profile but engages in artistic projects and catalog release. Nena Cherry reached her peak in 1989 with Bafa Lostense, and in 2025 she promotes her autobiography and participates in cultural events. Jodie Watley reached her peak in 1987 with Looking for a New Love. And in 2025, she continues releasing new dance pop music and performing live. Taylor Dayne reached her peak in 1987 with Tell It to My Heart. And in 2025, she tours internationally and releases new material. Martika reached her peak in 1989 with Toy Soldiers. And in 2025, she participates in retro festivals and special appearances. Samantha Fox reached her peak in 1986 with Touch Me, I Want Your Body. And in 2025, she continues performing at European nostalgia festivals. Sabrina Saredo reached her peak in 1987 with Boys Summertime Love. And in 2025, she performs in Italy and appears on European TV shows. Sandra Cretu reached her peak in 1985 with I'll Never Be Maria Magdalena. And in 2025, she remains active with selected performances. Nena reached her peak in 1983 with Kyuju Q Raftoboronsu. And in 2025, she tours in Germany and other European countries. Kim Carnes reached her peak in 1981 with Betty Davis Eyes. And in 2025, she continues songwriting and participating in musical tributes. Debbie Harry reached her peak in 1980 with Call Me with Blondie. And in 2025, she continues with Blondie projects and visual arts. Joan Jett reached her peak in 1982 with I Love Rock and Roll. And in 2025, she continues touring with the Cher reached her peak in 1989 with If I Could Turn Back Time. And in 2025, she remains active with reissues, special shows, and media appearances. Bette Midler reached her peak in 1988 with Wind Beneath My Wings. And in 2025, she participates in theater productions and philanthropic projects. Vanessa Williams reached her peak in 1989 with Tree, and in 2025, she continues performing in musicals, concerts, and television appearances. Vanessa Paradis reached her peak in 1987 with Joe Lataxis, and in 2025, she prepares a new album and plans an international tour. Desireless reached her peak in 1986 with Voyage, and in 2025, she continues performing at European retro festivals. Yaze reached her peak in 1988 with The Only Way Is Up. And in 2025, she continues to perform and engage in musical projects. Sunita reached her peak in 1986 with Samacho, and in 2025, she performs in musicals and nostalgia shows. Seiko Matsuda reached her peak in 1986 with So Macho, and in 2025, she performs in musicals and nostalgia shows. Akina Nakamori reached her peak in 1984 with Mew Akai Hena, and in 2025, she returned to appear in Japanese festivals and TV shows. Marija Takeuchi reached her peak in 1984 with Plastic Love, and in 2025, she completed a national Japanese tour after years away from the stage. CC Catch reached her peak in 1986 with Cause You Are Young, and in 2025, she performs in European retro festivals. Sandra Kim reached her peak in 1986 with Jemlava, and in 2025, she appears in music events and Belgian TV programs. Agunetae Erutis Kogu reached her solo peak in 1983 with Can't Shade Loose, and in 2025, she's involved in ABBA-related projects and Annie Puridoriongu Stado Fraida reached her solo peak in 1982 with I Know There's Something Going On, and in 2025, she participates in ABBA-related events and occasional appearances. Sarah Dalen Bananarama reached her peak in 1986 with Venus, and in 2025, she remains active with Bananarama, releasing new material and touring. Karen Woodward Bananarama reached her peak in 1986 with Venus, and in 2025, she continues in Bananarama, performing and recording. Terry Nunn Berlin reached her peak in 1986 with Take My Breath Away, and in 2025, she continues performing with Berlin at festivals. Chaka Khan reached her pop peak in 1984 with I Feel For You, and in 2025 she still performs at festivals, was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2023, and collaborates with younger artists. Jennifer Warnes reached her peak in 1982 with Up Where We Belong duet with Joe Cocker. And in 2025, she continues recording folk and country-influenced projects and occasionally performs live. Juice Newton reached her peak in 1981 with Queen of Hearts. And in 2025, she performs at select concerts and festivals, maintaining a loyal fan base from her crossover country pop era.